and we'll get things set up. All right. It should be good to go here in a second. I just always like to check the audio, even on the stream, make sure it's going.
Yeah, because I don't know how many times it didn't happen through.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Sounds good. I can hear you. And we got everything set up and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get the introduction started out. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, let me do my cool little countdown. I'll hit record and then I will do an introduction. We'll get going. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, now. This episode explores what happens when we stop growing the same crops in the same place year after year and instead work with the natural cycles of soil, plants, nutrients, microorganisms, pests, diseases, and beneficial insects. Welcome back to Earth, growing together. Today we're going to take something we've already talked about and take it a step further. We've talked about fertilizer, we've talked about soil, we've talked about nutrients, pH, roots, microorganisms, pollinators, and the insects that help our gardens. Today we're going to put some of those pieces together. We're talking about rotation. When we hear the word rotation, we might think about rotating crops from one garden bed to another. But there's much more to it than that. Why do gardeners rotate crops? What does it do to the soil? How does it affect nutrients? Can it help with pests and diseases? And what role do cover crops and soil organisms play? That's what we're going to explore today on Earth, growing together. Before we get going, I'd like to welcome everybody to the show, people on the panel, and people who are watching or may be watching later on in a replay. We have Mark Edworthy, who might be stepping away for a minute. I'm not quite sure. And we have my brother, Robert Hanson. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So let us start with the simplest question. What exactly are we rotating? Robert, what are we rotating?
Well, like Brussels sprouts, cabbage.
Okay. Now, crop rotation means changing which crops occupy a particular area of the garden from one growing season or year to the next. So the basic idea is that instead of planting the same crops in every location every year, we move different types of crops through different areas of the garden. So imagine that we have 4 garden beds. Instead of planting tomatoes in bed 1 every single year, we move the tomatoes somewhere else the following year and put a different type of crop in that bed. Then the following year, we move the crop again. The goal isn't simply to move plants for the sake of moving them. We're trying to change what is happening in that particular piece of soil from year to year. A good example would be we grow tomatoes and peppers in one bed during the first year, Then the following year, we could put beans or peas there. The third year could be squash or cucumbers, and the fourth year could be root or leafy crops. Then we could eventually bring the tomatoes and peppers back. So meanwhile, the other beds are following a different sequence so that the same crop family isn't continuously occupying the same piece of ground. So my big question to you, Robert, is what's the biggest reason a gardener would want to do that?
Well, for bacteria from one plant, for type of plant, the diseases and the bacterial of the plant and the enzymes of the plant. Now, each plant takes, and it helps the other. When you switch plants around, it helps the plants, and it cleans the soil as well too of any of the existing material from the old plant as well. And to where if the roots are deep of one where the other one's not, it helps break up farther down into the soil. It works the soil more clearer. And
Well, actually, the thing of it is you've got to think of it as and this is a very important point because rotating individual plants isn't enough. Okay, think in plant families. Okay, so there's sometimes something important to understand about crop rotation. We shouldn't necessarily think of rotating individual vegetables. We should often think about rotating plant families. For example, again, let's use tomatoes and peppers. They're different vegetables, but they're both members of the nightshade family. So moving from tomatoes one year to peppers the next doesn't provide the same kind of rotation as moving to a completely different plant family. Okay. Now, the same principle applies to crops like cabbages and broccoli. They're different vegetables, but they're both members of the Brassica families. All right. And the thing of it is like when you rotate these plants each year, what you're doing is you're putting a new plant family into the place of the old one, and that's for nutrients purposes. Because if you keep putting the same plants in the same soil, it's going to drain that soil of the nutrients that they need each year. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's the thing that you have to think about. And a good example would be for like nightshades. That would be like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. And
but
then,
they say too that insects too, because if you don't switch it out,
well, I mean, you can't really be switching out insects to a garden. I mean, that's
no, but I'm referring to certain plants have a certain
attracting
stuff.
different.
Yeah, it'll help keep them away and keep the population down.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to go through and kind of put these plant families to like nightshades, like I was saying, was tomato, peppers, and eggplants. And then brassicas are cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower and kale. Then you have cucurbits, which is squash, cucumbers, melons, and pumpkins. Then the legumes, those are beans and peas. So you want to rotate those around every year to where you can take care of that situation.
Yeah, and beans put hydrogen back into the soil too,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good thing. Important to know about that too, because they say just not that all the other But if you don't add that part into it, it don't help. It doesn't help develop the plant.
Right. So if somebody planted tomatoes in one bed this year, what would be the advantage of not putting peppers in that exact same bed next year?
Well, like what kind of peppers? Like hot peppers or regular peppers?
Well, what would be the advantage of not putting peppers into that exact same bed next year? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Because tomatoes and peppers are a part of the same plant family.
uh, well, then it would be a problem because, like, as you said, the
Like if I take plants or tomatoes out of a plant bed this year, and then I don't put peppers, which is in the same plant family as the tomatoes, into that same bed next year, what's the advantage to that?
well, wouldn't it alter it somewhat, absorb up from that one into the plant by cleaning it out, and the plant would use it for food.
No, it has to do with the soil, Robert.
Yeah, but I mean,
It gives the soil to replenish its nutrients and everything the following years.
yeah,
You see, that's pretty much what rotation is important about. Because if you don't rotate your plants, you're going to cause the soil to lose its nutrients. So every time you try to plant something, if you keep planting the same stuff over and over again, it's just not going to be good. It's not going to grow.
yeah, and something else farmers have done too. They take their high, but then the low area, below in between the rows,
Mm-hmm.
they would plant a small row there as well, where the material from the big row, the small rows absorb it, and vice versa.
So now let's connect this directly to our previous fertilizer episode, okay? So last time we talked about fertilizer, we discussed how nutrients don't simply like disappear into the plant the moment we put fertilizer on the soil. What happens is they enter a much larger system involving soil particles, water, organic matter, microorganisms, and roots. Then you have crop rotation, where it becomes another part of that system because different crops have different nutrient requirements. So if you continuously grow the same crop in the same location, we're repeating, placing similar demands on that soil. So changing the crops can change those demands. You see, that's kind of what it's about. And then, like, if we bring it back to nitrogen, okay, this also brings us back to nitrogen. Legumes such as beans and peas have relationships with bacteria associated with their roots that allow them to obtain nitrogen from the atmosphere. Now, that doesn't mean that planting beans automatically fills the soil with fertilizer. Much of that nitrogen remains in the plant itself. But legumes are an important part of nutrient cycling and can be incorporated into like a broader rotation strategy. You know what I mean? So it's an important reminder that this doesn't mean that crop rotation replaces soil testing either. You know what I mean? That's very important. We still want to know what the soil actually contains and what its pH is, what the nutrients may or may not need, or what's needed.
Yeah, and there's another one. I just can't think of the name of it, but it's big too. They say crop where the material from the plant's releases, it feeds one another. Uh, like the material for one plant might be for help, it helps keep the insects from getting, but it gets all over the plant, but it helps the plant grow, but it helps with the insect problem
Mm-hmm.
as well. I can't think of the name of it, but it's another thing of crop.
I have a question for you though. So, I mean, from your take, could crop rotation help us reduce our dependence on like simply putting more fertilizer in the garden? If you make a habit of rotating your crops
Well, it
each
depends on
year.
it depends on the type of plant too. Cause for certain plants require a little bit more than other plants. You just gotta be precise on what plants, the amount they say of fertilizer for it, and if it's been, especially how long does the plant last? If it lasts like 3 to 4 months or longer, and you gotta go by that. And especially how much this plant is, if it's a heavy eater or not. Because that's one thing I found out too. Certain plants are real heavy eaters, and some they're like.
You there? You went
Yeah.
quiet. Okay. So after that, I want to go to rotation, pests, and disease. This is one of the strongest reasons for discussing rotation. Now, I guess the best thing to do is just move on from nutrients to something gardeners deal with every year, and that's pest and disease. Now, some pests and plant diseases are closely associated with particular crops or plant families. If we grow the same suspectable crop in the same location year after year, we're giving those pests or pathogens an opportunity to continue finding a suitable host. So moving the crop doesn't magically eliminate every pest or disease, but it can interrupt some of those cycles. Here's another good example. Imagine that a disease affects tomatoes and survives in the garden from one season to another. Now, if we plant tomatoes in exactly the same place the following year, we're putting another susceptible, I guess is the best way of saying it, crop right back into that environment. So if instead we move the tomato and plant something from a different and replace it with something from a different family, the disease may have a much harder time continuing its cycle in the garden.
Oh well, only way you can get rid of that if it's that bad is pick a plant that has high resistance to bacteria. Okay, and you can't put nothing that's from any way related to that one plant, the family of that plant, or any offshoots or family parts of it, because it would be regrowing and intensify the disease within that soil too.
Yeah, that thing goes back into the whole plant family thing that we were talking about.
So you have to pick out a complete different group of plants that have the stuff for insect or disease. high tolerance of disease, where it helps, where it's not that easy, but anything it does come in contact with like that, you have a way of eliminating it out of the soil.
Yeah. Oh, Mark, he asked if we have gone to sleep, and I'm letting him know that we are on Jitsi. Yeah, he needs to come back in. So he's actually showing up as being on here, but he's not even on there. So
Well, like the farming, different countries have different ways, but how does the climates and how does the same plant can be grown in different altitudes and that? What is the outcome of it? How much does it produce in different climates? Like here, Canada, or UK.
So basically, my question to you is, could moving the crop actually be a form of pest and disease control?
Yeah. Well, that would be one good thing, but we have to keep precise on what plants goes where as well. If it even have a slight of that going on, because that would create a bigger problem. I can't think of it's a like certain type of bean where it helps with that situation. Insects do not like it, the oil from it, and when you put it into the garden with it, they stay away from it because the oil from it soaks into their our skin and it kills. As well.
Okay, so the next one I want to get into is cover crops and soil. Rotation doesn't always have to mean growing something we're going to eat. Sometimes a gardener grows a plant specifically to benefit the soil. These are called cover crops. Now, cover crops can help keep soil covered, reduce erosion, contribute organic matter, suppress weeds, and participate in nutrient cycling. Good examples include clover, vetch, rye, oats, buckwheat, depending on the situation and the gardener's goals. Now, sometimes the best crop you can grow isn't the one you're going to eat. Instead of leaving a garden bed completely bare between growing seasons, we can sometimes put another plant to work. The plant is capturing sunlight, developing roots, interacting with soil organisms, and protecting the soil surface. So, Robert, what if we started thinking of the soil as something we're growing along with vegetables?
Well, we have to remember, okay, what type of soil we have.
There it is.
And as well too, if we have contaminated soil or old lumber or metals in the soil, we have to remember we have to find something that can break that material down.
Now, see what did you hear what I was just saying? Like during the off season, instead of like growing crop or anything like that, just grow something else in its place. Like And
Like,
before you get to that, I want to welcome you, Mark. I noticed we were having technical problems.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, it was like you were right on here with us. I mean, the whole time. It didn't even show that you were muted or unmuted or anything.
I showed you both as muted on.
Yeah.
I was sitting here watching it. What else?
I'm glad you said something. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's crazy. So you can go ahead and continue, Robert.
okay. What I was referring to is depends on what plant, type of plant. Because, like, dwarf plants and the ones too that rest where it could be grown, but it could.
We'll see. Like when you
would be a good thing.
when you talk like that, though, it's kind of it doesn't fit with the way you are when you're doing gardening with me. Okay, like whenever we're gardening, you always focus on the soil, and then like you get in here and you don't even like. I just asked you a question. If we start thinking of the soil as something we're growing, just like we are with the vegetables, would that be a good thing? You know what I mean? Like, you know how you like to go and make sure that the soil's right. You check the pH balance.
Oh,
You
yeah,
always want to make sure that the rocks and everything are out of it.
yeah.
Now, what if you think about that as like growing soil, just like you would grow plants or seeds? You're growing your soil too.
Yeah, like, well, for one, I'll have to measure from the bottom of the container to the top. If it shows the soil dry, I have to replace that raw soil with new, and then mix it in. Because I found out that materials within the soil decreases from each growing stage. From year to year, you lose so much soil within the process, and if you don't keep it on, you'll lose it, and the plants can't survive either with alcohol from it. If it gets too low, if you do grow in pots, the plant won't handle it, because if the soil gets too low from it, the roots will get all bound up.
So what we're talking about, Mark, is soil rotation. Do you know much about soil rotation?
Apart from the basics, not really.
Yeah, we started talking about it, and for some reason, like Robert keeps like coming up with stuff that just goes completely off base. You know what I mean? It's like I just asked a simple question, like, do you think freaking if you started treating soil like what you're growing and thinking of it like growing soil just like you would grow a tomato or grow a lettuce, do you think that's a good thing? You know what I mean? I mean, it's that's
What
that
do you
simple.
mean growing?
Like if you started thinking of your soil like you're growing your soil just like you would like a tomato.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what you mean by
Plant.
growing your soil.
Well, the way I understand, you got to put material into the soil to grow your soil, to where it can handle next year's crops.
Yeah. What if you started thinking of the soil as something that we're growing along with the vegetables? You know what I mean? So
I
instead
was
of
just thinking on the terms of fermenting soil rather than growing it.
that,
Much
that
like
would
you
be
would stuff.
basically the same thing.
Yeah, much like you would ferment alcohol into beer or whatever.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, Robert drives me crazy, man. He's
So, yeah, but but like when you're doing that, don't you have to have like different types of soil for the way you have to do it? Because the hard clay,
That would be a part of it, you know what I mean? And it's like when it comes to rotating your crops too. Like I said, if you don't rotate them out every year, what happens is when you keep putting the same vegetables in the same area, it depletes the nutrients. So you have to rotate those out every year so that you can get a different plant family in there to where it'll give those nutrients that one plant family the year before had already drawn out of it. It'll give it time to replenish it. You know what I mean? So you keep rotating your crops out of that garden area each year, and it'll keep the soil replenishing itself and being able to grow strong again. Whereas if you just keep putting, like, say you take a piece of garden and you just keep putting tomatoes in it every year, eventually the nutrients in that soil is just going to be gone.
Oh, certain nutrients.
Well, whatever nutrients a tomato needs, you know what I mean? And eventually you're not going to be able to grow tomatoes there for a few years because it's gonna be impossible. It won't have.
I've heard about, there's a plant, you can eat it, but they call it elephant ear, and you put it in your garden, and what it does is that the materials from the plants and everything about the elephant ear transfers over to your crops in your container, and the plants uses that material for its own growth and all that.
So basically, we've talked about how soil isn't simply dirt. There's an entire biological community underneath our feet. Okay, so you have bacteria, you've got fungi, you got earthworms, insects, and other organic participants, I guess you could call them, in decomposition and nutrient cycling. Now, plant roots, they also interact with the biological community. So when we change what we're growing, we're changing the root system that's entering the soil and changing the plant material that eventually returns to it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Robert?
Yeah, it does. Cross, and I was like, now another word, cross penelia, where the plants cross the material from one another.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was trying to say. I can't think of the name, but I can't pronounce it correctly. But that's the process of the plants too.
Well, you got to think about, like, remember in our earlier discussion about mushrooms?
Yeah.
That can come back into the picture in this situation, because you got to realize, like, not every fungus is a problem. Like, some fungus are decompositors, that they decompose things, and others form beneficial relationships with plant roots. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong, other fungi can cause plant diseases, but there are some that can have a beneficial relationship, and some of them are decomposers. So when we talk about, like, soil fungi, we shouldn't automatically think of them as either good or bad. They're part of the whole, ecosystem when it comes to the soil and stuff. You know what I mean? That right there is kind of what I'm getting into, where it actually puts nutrients and everything back into the soil. So,
Oh, and one other thing too, a lot of people don't look up in your growing books on types of insects that are beneficial to your garden. Remember, if you have, as they said, have a balance in your garden and you grow stuff, because if you have more bad than good, you're not going to have a very good garden because all of it will be affected by the insect. But if you have well, 50-50 in it, it works out even better for you all the way around. Disease and keeps the insect population, bad population down.
so now when you bring that up, you got to think about that. What about rotation and pollinators? So,
Yeah, that depends on what type of pollinator. There's one that the ones that meat eaters or the insect. Well, I don't know about the insect one because you don't want to get to where it causes more problems than anything. But it's not a bad deal. I don't know if your neighbor how it would work out with your neighbors.
now I know, like with crop rotation doesn't mean that everything in the garden has to move. You know what I mean? Like a vegetable bed might rotate from year to year, while a native pollinator garden can remain in the same location for a few years. You have perennial plants like the coneflowers and other native flowers that you can use to establish like long-term relationships with their environment, like if for bees and stuff. You know what I mean? So and stuff like that. Like if you have flowers that you want to keep near the garden or in the garden, even, you don't have to kill them off. You can just let them stay there so that they can attract those pollinators to it.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, those permanent plants can provide nectar. They can also provide pollen. And even habitats actually for some of the pollinators, and most of it can also be beneficial for the insects while your annual vegetable beds are being rotated.
Yeah, like I didn't know this, but like in New Zealand, well, yeah, I can't think of it, but like geese and a few birds, certain types of birds, they round them up, they send them out to the fields, and they clean out the fields of the insect population for next year's crops. But they load them all up in semis, bring them out there, and they release them into a big area. They leave them there for at least a day or 2 days. But they clean and fertilize the field.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, I'm kind of iffy on a lot of that. Like, whenever like with us around here, okay, we have all these groundhogs and all of these vermin that are coming up into the yard, and the reason for that is because we were gardening and they got a taste of cantaloupe. Okay, so they started getting a taste for cantaloupe, and all of a sudden they wanted to be our buddies, like the groundhogs, And that's the one thing that really caught my attention whenever it is. And then I've heard people talking about, like, feed your animals, and they're talking about literally going out into your yard and feeding the squirrels and stuff. I mean, for me, I'm kind of pushed on that one, because that's actually asking for trouble. You know what I mean? You're asking for these creatures to come up into your yard and depend on you feeding them. So I don't really, I'm kind of standoffish on that. like having animals come in and birds come into your garden and take care of these situations. I just don't feel comfortable with that. What's your take on that, Mark?
Feel comfortable about animals invading your garden.
Well, I mean, I literally have heard people saying like, feed your wild animals in the neighborhood so they don't go after your garden, and that's not how it works. You feed them and then they go after your garden, because getting what you feed them is not enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's not that.
Yeah.
Problem
I'm
is,
just thinking. My dad's got in his area. Has got a fox problem. And it's a built-up area anyway, so fairly built up anyway. So yeah, can sort of see your point.
yeah, but that ain't the only thing. When you feed them, that would be going into your yard, getting the other ones out. If they're too fat to move, they're not going to do their job and keep the population or the other insects down or out. Like groundhogs, if you or squirrels, you feed animals what they would keep out of your yard. If they're too fat, they get that fed. They're not going to be doing it. They're not going to be as active.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. They tell you not to feed the bears. Okay.
How many bears do you get?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if they're telling you not to feed the bears, then you might want to take that into consideration. You know what I mean?
Are squirrels really a pest?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's actually been documented cases where they've called complete blackouts. They run up on these huge power lines going into cities and literally cause freaking complete outages where blackouts happen in cities.
And it's not that. They were cases of some children were even attacked by them.
Yeah. But I'm talking about just blackouts and stuff. I don't want to. I'm not going to talk about the poor, horrible children who's been attacked by squirrels. But yeah, they're very aggressive. They are.
Sorry, that just sounds like a very Monty Python sketch.
It's. I was amazed when I heard it too. I mean, but they are pretty. I wouldn't say aggressive. Pretty evasive, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
You know. So now, the big question I should ask you, Robert. Do you think a garden could have both a permanent area for nature and then rotating areas for vegetables? Think that'd be a good idea to have like an area set up for like flowers and stuff, and then another area for your vegetables and stuff.
I've seen they put seasonings in the gardens and they're permanently there. As long as you keep doing it, it looks, but it helps out with other things too, like cinnamon and paprika. You grow it and it keeps, as long as you process it, breaks it up, it keeps on growing, but it'll have no problem. Just you have to figure out how you're going to work it, but map it out. They say map out your garden, what you want, and it considers the shadow of each of your plants. Make sure that the shadows don't overlap your other plants that will need full sunlight. But yeah, you can just separate the two.
I think it would actually make it look nice too if you actually sort it out to where you have like vegetables and then you have flowers in the same bed together, that would actually look really, really nice as well.
Yeah, but your flowers, you can use your flowers for sprinkler.
Yeah, for repelling certain insects and stuff like that,
Yeah,
like mint, how we were talking about before.
and there's not, and there's some flowers you can eat right there. Actually, eat them, and they have no harm to you. But people have used them for seasoning.
Well, I know I would love to do sunflowers. It's just not as easy as what people make them out to be. You know, sunflowers, and I know like peanuts. You wanted to do peanuts. Well, it was our third year. You wanted to grow them, but
Yeah.
peanuts are very, very tricky as well. You know, I would love to be able to do that, but that's not something that's very. It's not as easy as what everybody makes it out to be.
Only problem is with that sunflower depends on what brand of sunflower you got. Because we had that problem when we had that one growing out here. The birds and the squirrels. The squirrels will literally eat the sunflower seeds.
It does give us a pretty interesting picture of the garden. You know, some parts are what could be like constantly changing, while other parts are doing the whole continuity thing. They're switching up.
I'm just thinking of an embankment not that far away from me where the local council has just part of it is just grown wild now, and the rest of it's cut and maintained.
Yeah.
Mm.
Whenever we had that situation where they're doing that too, they that actually can cause issues because you get hybrid wildlife and stuff when it comes into your area and stuff. They've been talking about that here because we have farms where I don't know if you've got it over in England, but we have like our crops, and then you have the tree lines that are, you know, those tree lines that are around each of the crops. That's supposed to be set up so to where it can catch freaking fall off from the rain. So, you know what I mean? So there's a whole rows of trees in between each crop.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys have that there.
Crops.
Yeah, we use tree lines.
Bushes.
With that, and we use the tree line just not for that, but for like spray offs where one don't interfere with the other. Or
well, that's what I'm getting. Invasive wild plants and stuff like that. That's actually something that's pretty interesting. Invasive and hybrid plants.
Yeah, like what happened in Canada.
Yeah, actually, that is true. That does happen quite a bit. So that's actually pretty cool. We should talk about that whenever we get a chance to.
Well, in certain gardens, people are starting to do this. Like when you grow rice, they add crab, fish, crawdads into the area. Keeps the water clean and the bacteria down as well.
Well, you know, the thing of it is like whenever we're talking like big scale like that actually made me think of something when it comes to Callum's kiwi orchard, you know, with Bob Dub and stuff. Like the interesting question I had is like, especially now that we're talking about rotation, is what happens when we're dealing with an orchard. You know, you can't just simply rotate a mature tree or kiwi vine to another garden bed every year. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking the same one, sort of monocultured farms on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that
farms that will just grow, I don't know, wheat or soya beans or sunflowers, or just will only grow one particular plant in an area.
Callum was talking about, like, he had vines sitting up on top of there that were like 50 years old.
Mm.
You know what I mean? 50-year-old vines just hanging right across there. So, I mean, so you got crops that remain in place for like years and sometimes decades even, you know? So,
I know joke of mine actually. There's a I can't remember what the plant is, but there's a big bush out in what is named my dad's place, the ex-family's place. That's been growing ever since we moved in back in 35 years ago.
mhm.
Always blooms on for a very short time, but around my birthday actually.
Pretty
Only for a couple
insane.
weeks. Yeah, not sure what it is.
So, yeah.
But yeah, a 35, 40-year-old tree, that's bush, that's still
Mhm.
growing. Yeah.
There we go. So, the big question I have to ask is this: how does maintaining an orchard differ from maintaining an annual vegetable garden when it comes to the soil? What do you guys think? What do you think the big difference would be?
Well, you
Say
can't
that
really,
again.
Roger,
How does maintaining an orchard differ from maintaining an annual vegetable garden when it comes to the soil?
Well, there is a lot of problems, because one thing you got to worry about the insects because of the rotten fruit that's on the ground, the fruit flies,
Mm-hmm.
and that there would draw other wildlife up into your area as well too. And it creates like you said, can create a fungus or a disease of your plants as well. Like what's going on in Florida
Yeah.
and Georgia with the peaches and oranges in Florida.
Yeah. So basically, instead of rotating the plants, you'd have to worry about orchard management and focus on like maintaining the health of the soil, the root zone over the long term, you know. So that mean thinking about fertility. You'd have to worry about water, disease, organic matter.
Generally speaking, would you have to? I mean, there's plenty of forests and woods. I've got wood just down the road from me, but 12 miles down the road from me. Nobody really maintains that, but it's been wood since the Doomsday Book.
So are they growing anything though?
Trees.
That's
Well, it's a word of play. But nothing commercial on there as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, but you know what else they could do? With all the rotten fruit that's sitting on the ground or in the trees especially, take them bees that like to eat rotten fruit, stick them there and let them go through and put it through the process. Just them by themselves, no other different groups of different types of bees. Because they clean up the land to keep the insects down too.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So I guess the best thing I can say now is let's close the discussion and bring the show to an end. Sound good?
Yeah.
So, because today, believe it or not, we did cover a lot today. We talked about moving crops between garden beds. We talked about plant families, nutrients, fertilizer, nitrogen, pests, diseases, covering crops, soil organisms, pollinators, and even orchards. And there's one idea that ties all of it together, and that's a garden isn't a factory, it's a cycle. Now, the plants take nutrients from the soil, their roots interact with microorganisms, and flowers interact with pollinators. Crops produce food, plant materials eventually returns to the soil and the next growing season begins. So crop rotation is one way that we can work with that cycle instead of treating every growing season as an isolated event. We're not just growing vegetables, we're managing a living system. So,
Oh, and one other thing too, what people can do, we have this white material where it protects the fruit trees from getting too burnt, and it fills up scrapes on the bark and all that. But it keeps the disease from going into the open wound of the tree.
okay.
It's white, but they could use that.
So maybe we can come back and we can discuss that, and we can start a conversation on that. But before we go, I would like to ask everybody to give their socials. Mark, how can people find you if they want to get in touch with you by any chance?
Really, just one site, minds.com, under the username Medworthy.
Okay. Now to contact me and Robert, you can find me and Robert on Element Matrix at Rogers Hangout. You can also find us on Teams at Rogers Hangout in our community. I'm on X. That's Roger Hanson at ROGLOL1973, and I'm on Minds at Roger_Hanson. So if you guys are interested in getting in touch with us, you can contact us there. Leave a if you can, like, subscribe, share, make a comment down in the comment section. We'd appreciate every single one, and we will be more than happy to contact you as long as what you're saying is respectable and you're not being a troll. We appreciate every single comment. And with that being said, I will like to say thank you and hope you have a good day, good morning, good evening, whatever time of the day it is for you. And we will talk to you later. Have a good day.